Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to good morning to good morning to you and many more. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles. It is Get Free Friday. I hope that you're having a great and wonderful day. As we all know, this has been one week for the books. The United States is off to a very oligarchic, fascist start. And I am very thankful for the representatives, for the federal judges, for the attorneys, for everyone in the legal field who is refusing to just be silent, who is refusing to bow down to a wannabe dictator. I am very, very thankful for that, that they are not allowing our felon in chief to just run amok, and that there are some things that can be challenged. There are some rules of law that he just cannot skip over and violate. Um, the latest happening on that is a federal judge has um, shut down the plan of or the attempt of ending birthright citizenship because it is a clear violation of the Constitution. So we're not going to spend all of our sessions talking about what he is doing because in 2016 he was doing some of the same things in terms of just throwing stuff out there against the wall and hoping that something would stick. And so we have determined and made up in our minds that we aren't going to spend every broadcast talking about what he is doing. Today we're doing a short broadcast, but I wanted to just come and give you a word of encouragement today. This is coming from Dennis Kimbrough's Daily Motivations for African American Success, and the topic is Green with Envy. Sarah Vaughan, jazz legend, said this: some of us aren't prepared to accept success, especially someone else's. Once upon a time, there were two shopkeepers who were bitter rivals. Their stores were across the street from each other, and they would spend the better part of each day sitting in the doorway, keeping an eye on each other's business. One night, an angel appeared to one of the shopkeepers in a dream and said, God has sent me to teach you a lesson. He will give you anything you ask for, but I want you to know that whatever you get, your competitor across the street will receive twice as much. Would you like to be wealthy? You can be very wealthy, but your neighbor will be twice as rich. Do you want to lead a long and healthy life? This you can have, but your neighbor's life will be longer and healthier. You can be famous, have children you will be proud of, whatever you desire, but whatever is granted to you, your competitor will be granted twice as much. The man frowned, thought for a moment, and said, all right, my request is this: strike me blind in one eye. We tend to be cruel and vent our rage against those we secretly envy. If a man has a better garden, he is envied by his neighbors. If he gains a promotion, he is envied by fellow workers. If he's able to cope with events so that he lives happily, he is envied by failures. Yet in the end, we only hurt ourselves with envy. Mm, there's something to be said about that. The affirmation today is I am comfortable with who I am. There is no need for me to be envious of anyone. Now, I don't know about you, but envy is something that I try not to dwell on. But one of my one of my principles for life is when you come across somebody and you've been in relationship with them, you've been trying to establish a friendship with them, and everything is going along well, and at some point in that relationship that person begins to say things like I really envy you, not I admire you, not I'm thankful for you, not um, I'm grateful for you, not man, I'm really excited about what's happening in your life, not any of that. When they begin to say I'm so jealous, or when they begin to say I really envy you, those are yellow flags, and you want to pay attention, especially if that particular comment continues on. I have never had a situation turn out well once a person starts saying, I envy you. It usually turns into resentment. And from unchecked resentment, it turns into because I envy you or because I resent that you have something that I don't have, let me begin to undermine or sabotage what it is that you have. And it never fails. And so that's one thing for me that is a yellow flag is hearing people say, I envy you. Now, I have another book here, being that our Get Free Friday is usually our healthy, wealthy, wise topics. And I have a book here that is kind of talks about a variety of topics. It's called 150 Curious Questions. Well, the title is a bit more humorous than that, but the subtitle is Over 150 Curious Questions and Intriguing Answers. So let's go to the health side. We have a lot of people in our country right now that is dealing with oppression and also dealing with depression. So I want to look at what causes depression for a moment here. Although many people experience sadness and think that it constitutes depression, clinical depression is a health condition and more than simply a temporary state. There's something called situational depression or circumstantial depression that deals with a temporary state of something happening to you and then you feeling sad, right? But this is clinical depression. There are a number of brain chemicals called neurotransmitters which allow electrical signals to be sent within the brain. The neurotransmitter serotonin helps regulate sleep, appetite, and emotion. Dopamine is associated with pleasure and reward, and norepinephrine is associated with arousal and alertness. People with clinical depression have lower levels of these neurotransmitters. Antidepressant medications tend to increase the levels of these neurotransmitters in the brain. Although it is not known exactly why these levels are lower in depressed people, it is thought that some people inherit the condition while others have personality traits that are conducive to depression. Certain situations can also cause the neurotransmitters to become imbalanced, which leads to depression. Things such as persistent stress, difficult life events, and the loss of a loved one can cause this imbalance. Certain illnesses, medications, drug or alcohol use, or a deficiency in vitamins are also known to cause depression. Some types of depression are also thought to occur during winter when there is less sunlight because the body produces more melatonin, which somehow causes depression. Now, evolutionists claim that depression is a mechanism that can help people assess whether their goals are reachable and that it can lead people to accept a satisfactory rather than perfect outcome. These people are thought to live happier lives. In addition, if a person is vying to dominate a social group but losing, depression can cause him or her to back down from an arrogant attitude. So, those are some thoughts on depression. Now, because it's also, if we're looking and talking about health as well, it is also um, flu season. They call it season for a reason. But we are also in a what they're calling a quademic, and I want to make sure that I get that right. So give me 1 second, and I'll tell you what the quademic consists of. Four viral infections and what we need to know about them. Now, our government has just suspended all notifications about health and what's happening in health until February 1st. So there is now a unfortunate blackout about medical information coming from our government. But let me tell you what this possible quademic is. There are four viruses circulating in the US sparking concerns of a quademic. Influenza, COVID 19, RSV, and norovirus are all at very high levels around the country, according to the director of AI and Life Sciences and professor of health scientists at Northeastern University in Boston. We are in the middle of a very serious situation with respect to circulating pathogens. Based on the data from the National Wastewater Surveillance System, some parts of the country, such as Boston, seem to be entering the peak for all four diseases, but in other areas, cases are still rising. Dr. Mark Siegel, clinical professor of medicine at NYU Langone Health, noted that it is currently peak respiratory virus season. He says it is not a quademic per se, just a lot of respiratory viruses and bacteria at once. On top of the four viruses, Siegel warned of some bacterial outbreaks that can cause respiratory illness such as mycoplasma, pertussis, and strep. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported an 18.8% positivity rate for flu tests for the week ending January 11th, stating that seasonal influenza activity remains elevated across most of the country. There were also 11 pediatric deaths related to influenza, bringing the total to 27 deaths this season. COVID was at a 6.6 test positivity as of January 11th, with 1.3% of emergency room visits resulting in a diagnosis and 1.8% of all deaths linked to the virus. So, yes, unfortunately, people are still dying. RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, which is a highly contagious virus that infects the lungs, nose, and throat, has a test positivity of 8.9%. Cases of norovirus, more commonly known as the stomach bug, are also surging. So you want to be aware that we have several viruses going on. Do what you need to do to protect yourself. Continue to use basic hygiene practices like washing your hands after interactions with people, touching surfaces, taking money from people, all of that. Kerry, Kenneth Perry, MD, emergency physician in South Carolina, said his hospital has recently seen an uptick in emergency department visits. From cough to nasal congestion, and even fever, it is difficult to differentiate between the discrete viruses. For most people, knowing which virus they have is purely an academic discussion. For some patients, however, the specific virus is important. The possibility of someone having all four at once is very low, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility for people to have two or three at the same time. Siegel agreed that with multiple viruses circulating, it can be a challenge for practicing internists and infectious disease specialists to tell the difference. Respiratory panels at hospitals, urgent care centers, and labs can be helpful to distinguish between them. There are combined rapid tests available that screen for two types of flu and COVID. Of the four viruses, all pose a unique risk of severe illness in the elderly. So try to be very careful when you are around the elderly, um, and make sure that you're doing what you can to protect your elders when you have to be around them. I have great aunts that are mid 80s. When I go around them, I wear a mask. I don't go around them without a mask on. I try to sit a couple of feet away from them when I visit them. Just doing some basic things that you know that can help to keep down possible passing of an infection or a virus is going to be helpful. For young infants, breathing through their nose is imperative in order to eat. An RSV can cause severe amounts of nasal congestion. This congestion can disrupt baby's ability to consume enough calories. For norovirus, dehydration can become a major problem. Again, young infants who cannot have water or sports drinks to help maintain hydration can be most susceptible. Long COVID is a significant concern for most adults, as the chronic disorder is yet to be fully understood and effective treatments have yet to be developed. Scarpino noted that influenza has historically been a leading cause of death in the U.S. Despite us being more used to worrying about COVID, it's important to take the flu very seriously as well. People with underlying risk factors are at a higher risk for severe illness for all four viruses. All right, so that's a little bit of the update on what's happening nationwide and what's going around. Now, from my book, Should You Feed a Cold and Starve a Fever? It's a commonly heard remedy, feed a cold and starve a fever. Many claim that this is merely an old wives' tale that dates back to the 1500s. Some believe it originated with the idea that if a person was cold with a chill, he or she should eat to increase internal heat, whereas the opposite was true when a person was overheated with a fever. Most medical professionals have been trying to dispel this myth for years, claiming that a sick person should maintain normal eating habits and should not stress the body by either starving or gorging. Food is required for the body's metabolism to work properly, and starving makes it more difficult for the body to fight illnesses such as fevers. Similarly, they say a cold is a virus that cannot be cured by anything we eat. Despite doctors often disagreeing with the claim, there is now some evidence that eating and starving can help to ward off illnesses. A team of Dutch scientists conducted experiments that showed that after a meal, certain chemicals are stimulated in a person's body, and these act to increase the immune system and destroy infected cells. These chemicals help to destroy the viruses responsible for colds. Starved patients, on the other hand, were shown to have an increase in another chemical that helps to produce antibodies that fight the bacterial infections responsible for most fevers. Although these experiments lend weight to the notion of feeding a cold and starving a fever, researchers recommend that until more is known, people shouldn't change their eating habits whether they have a cold or a fever. All right. So I did want to make sure that we came in and talked a little bit today about what's happening health wise, being that our government is going to be on a health notice blackout until February 1st. Please take care of yourself, take care of your body. Um, Sometimes we can, because of the cold, if you're in the part of the United States, especially that's dealing with cold, sometimes we can slack on our water. But make sure you're staying hydrated in the winter. Make sure you're drinking enough enough water, and that you're not getting dehydrated. All right. So I want to thank you for your time and attention today. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. Today has been Get Free Friday, focusing on healthy, wealthiness, and wiseness. Please take care of yourself. Do what you can. Wear masks when necessary, especially if you're going to be in crowded spaces. Make sure you're washing your hands, using hand sanitizer. In some cases, if you can't get to water very quickly, we try to keep a little bottle of hand sanitizer on us at all times. Use some Clorox wipes. I also bring some Clorox wipes with me in my car in case I have to wipe down surfaces. But just do what you can in your corner of the world to keep yourself healthy, wealthy, and wise. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness, so continue to go out and be light. Take care, be well, and most importantly, be light.